This is a Psychedelic Spotlight exclusive. I'm David Flores, CEO of Global Track Solutions, and we are here today to talk about California Senate Bill 519, which was introduced earlier this year and which aims to decriminalize the possession and sharing of certain psychedelic substances. And with us here today is Senator Scott Wiener. He helped introduce the bill earlier this year, and he's here to provide us with a bit of an overview of SB 519, where it stands today, and what he hopes to see accomplished with it in the years to come. And so with that, Senator, it is a privilege and an honor to have you here with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So I guess first things first here, SB 519 achieved a big milestone earlier this month as it passed the Senate. It's now moving on to the Assembly. Congratulations again on that. And so I guess if you can maybe start just providing us with a quick overview of SB 519, the genesis of it, and what you hope to see accomplished here with it in the years to come.
SB 519, it really is at the crossroads of two very high priorities, not just for me, but for a lot of people. And I think for California in general. One is criminal justice reform and one is mental health. Decriminalizing the possession of psychedelic drugs is part of our movement towards ending the war on drugs. We have taken a criminalization approach to drug use and to addiction for 50 plus years, and it's been a complete failure. It hasn't reduced drug use, it hasn't reduced addiction, it hasn't reduced overdose deaths, and again, psychedelics are not the ones that are really causing addiction and overdose deaths, but drugs in general. It hasn't helped. Instead, it's just exploded our prison population, leading to mass incarceration, tearing apart communities, disproportionately harming Black and brown communities. There's no reason for us to be criminalizing the possession really of any drug. It just doesn't work, it doesn't do anything. And so here we're trying to, for psychedelics, take a step back and say, let's take a health approach, not a criminalization approach. And then there's mental health. We have a mental health crisis in this country, and California is not immune. People who are struggling with mental health, with addiction, and they're not able to get the treatment they need. And we know that psychedelics can have significant benefits for people struggling with addiction, people struggling with mental health challenges. And so it's a win-win to say we're going to stop arresting people for possessing these drugs. It's not the global solution. We need the FDA to act. We need a lot of other things to happen, but this is one step that we can take.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the failure of the war on drugs. And so I'm curious to get your perspective, on a couple of different factors that, at least from my perspective, I'm curious to get your perspective on this, have contributed to helping to get the momentum behind a bill like SB 519. The war on drugs is being one of them. And this, what I think, society is really reaching a come to Jesus moment, in my opinion, that the war on drugs has been a failure. And it's time now more than ever to enact change and do something. Aside from that, we've also seen this shift in perception surrounding psychedelics really begin to change throughout society, which I believe is attributed to, more and more encouraging data coming out of studies and research being conducted by highly reputable institutions like Johns Hopkins and NYU that point to the efficacy and safety of psychedelics as a therapeutic treatment for some very serious mental health conditions, like you mentioned. And so I'm wondering, here we are, and I'm wondering if 10, 15 years ago, would we even be here? Would SB 519 even have the momentum behind it? I mean, with those factors now sort of converging, do you think that really has helped get the momentum behind it?
Yeah, I think so. And to be clear, this is a very hard bill. We have some momentum. We have a great coalition of veterans and parents and health advocates and so forth. But we've been able to move this bill by the skin of its teeth. We passed it by one vote out of the Health Committee, by one vote off the Senate floor. We're not guaranteed to be able to pass it through the Assembly. It's possible it would go on a slower track and have to move forward next year instead. So it's a really hard bill. But I think the reason why it has gotten some momentum moving forward is yes, that people want to end the war on drugs, but I think more so, particularly the veterans who have come out and talked about how these drugs have helped them turn their lives around, and and get healthy after suffering from PTSD, depression, addiction, and wondering why do I have to go to Mexico or Peru and leave the country to get treatment when I fought for this country. So I think it's a mix of things, of wanting to end the war on drugs, but also seeing the real benefits of these particular substances.
Yeah, most definitely. And you mentioned there's still a tough path ahead, for SB 519. Can you just give us a little bit of a, overview of what that road ahead looks like here for it?
Absolutely. So it passed out of the Senate, so we're out of the Senate. We now have to pass through the Assembly Public Safety Committee and the Assembly Health Committee. I'm optimistic about the Public Safety Committee. The Health Committee, we definitely have a path through that committee, but we're going to have to do a lot of work. And what I've found is there are a lot of members of legislature who might be on some level open-minded about the bill, but they have some initial reactions and concerns, and just because of the cultural stereotypes around these drugs. But once they review the evidence and talk to our veterans and parents, they don't always turn around, but we've had some members who have really shifted their position and become much more favorable to the bill. So we're going to be working member by member. I'll speak to my colleagues, our coalition will speak to our colleagues, and we'll do what we can. If it passes those two committees, it will go to the Assembly Appropriations Committee, which is sort of the live or die committee, deciding what gets voted on the Assembly floor. If that goes well, then we would have an Assembly floor vote sometime in the first week and a half of September. And if that goes well, then it would be the Senate has to then sign off on any amendments that the Assembly would make, but that's a very fast process. And then by September 10th, we have to have any bills on the governor's desk. He would have 30 days. And so if the governor signs it, it would have to be by about October 10th, and then it would take effect January 1st. So it's a convoluted, complex process, a lot of opportunities for the bill to trip up, which is true of any bill in the legislature, but we're very focused on getting it as far as we can take it.
Yeah, most definitely. Last question here. It's an uphill battle. There's no question about that. But what inspires and motivates you to keep going, to keep pushing forward? I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but if it, if it gets through all of the hurdles and clears all of that, in 5-10 years from now, you look back, what are some of the changes that you hope to be able to say that this commitment that you've put forth to it were able to inspire and change throughout society?
Well, I think two things. If we're able to pass this, I hope that it creates more momentum for an overall end to the war on drugs. I would like to see possession of any substance decriminalized, and that we may have to go to the ballot to do that. But I'm hoping, 5-10 years down the line, we've really made huge strides in ending the criminalization of drugs and the war on drugs. I also hope that this will be more impetus to getting more people access to mental health and addiction treatment. There's just a profound problem in the society where people, not just homeless people, that's just the tip of the iceberg. People who are housed, who are working, who have families, who are suffering often in silence, they may have insurance and they still just struggle to access real treatment. And psychedelics are not for everyone who have mental health challenges, for sure, but for some people, they're very effective. And if we can really start moving the dial and getting more people connected to treatments, psychedelics or otherwise, that will turn their lives around, save their lives, make them happier, more productive people who are better family members and better friends, that would be a huge win as well.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I mean, I've said it before, I believe we're at the beginning of a paradigm shift here in society in terms of, our approach to very serious mental health conditions, and just recognizing that, conventional treatments continue to fall short. They may be great for some people, but they're not for everyone. We're seeing enough, to prove that, they have the ability to change people's lives for the better. And so I think big changes start somewhere. I think you're onto something here. And I want to thank you again so much, for your commitment, the time and the dedication that you're putting forth with this. And I look forward to continuing to monitor the progress.
Wonderful. Thank you for covering it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much again, Senator. I really appreciate it.
Have a good one.